Number 1. My dad grew up in rural farm country and had to walk about half a mile to and from a bus stop each day. He was the youngest of 5, and he was in his last year of elementary school, while his siblings were in either middle or high school. This meant he went to the same bus stop as his siblings, but they were picked up and dropped off by the bus at different times. My grandma was a single mum who worked as a nurse and couldn't pick him up, but my aunts and uncles usually took good care of him. There was rarely trouble in my dad's county, besides small things like teens taking tractors out for joyrides. One day, when he was walking home on a stretch of country road on my family's property, he saw a van whiz by him. My grandma's family often let locals drive through as a sort of shortcut, so my dad wasn't too alarmed. That all changed when he realized that the van had pulled in a ways up the road. My dad looked inside the van as he passed it, and saw a gruff, bug-eyed older man. My dad said the look in his eyes was unsettling, like an excited shark setting sight on its prey. "Mister, what are you doing on our farm?" The old man got out of his car and gave my dad some spiel about how his parents had got into a car crash and my dad needed to go with him to the hospital. Alarm bells went off for one single reason. His parents were divorced and his dad lived 2 states away. His parents couldn't stand to be around each other, much less in the same car unless it was an absolute necessity. Thinking quick, my dad then asked, "Did you take my brother Ricky there already?" The old man told my dad, "Oh yeah, I picked Ricky up from school and took him right away." My dad didn't have a brother Ricky. He ran towards his house, cutting across the forest. The old man followed behind on foot, yelling at my dad. My dad was just about to give out from exhaustion when he reached the driveway to his house. He saw that his mum wasn't even home and got scared that the man would try to come inside when he saw his Uncle Buck standing on the porch, cleaning his favourite rifle. This struck my dad as odd because his mum had told him that Uncle Buck had gone on vacation and my dad hadn't seen him in months. He screamed, "Uncle Buck, that man's trying to get me in his car." Now, Uncle Buck was a scary-looking guy. He was a World War II vet, with Willie Nelson braids and a ZZ Top beard. He was a biker who drank whiskey and smoked cigars, and won plenty of bar fights. Definitely the kind of guy you don't mess with. He didn't say anything as my dad ran inside the house. My dad watched from his bedroom window as Uncle Buck put his rifle together real quick and yelled something at the man. The old man narrowed his eyes, spun around and hightailed it back. It took my dad a few minutes to calm down before he went back down to the porch to talk to Uncle Buck. But when he went there, he couldn't find Uncle Buck anywhere. When his siblings and mum got home, he told them exactly what happened. According to my dad, his mum went whiter than a sheet and asked him if he was sure that it was Uncle Buck. Well, sure. He was even wearing that motorcycle jacket he got for his birthday. His mum didn't say anything for a few hours. That night, after dinner, my grandmother explained to my dad that Uncle Buck had died in a motorcycle crash a few months earlier in Florida, and that they buried him in those exact clothes. The rifle that my dad had seen him cleaning was kept under lock and key in my grandma's basement. When Uncle Buck died, they couldn't find the keys anywhere, so the case remained locked. When my grandma went to check the case, it was unlocked and unlatched. My father still doesn't know what to make of this, but I've got to thank Uncle Buck for saving my dad's life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. Number 2. I live in a condominium, and we own 2 apartments on the 7th and 8th floor. The only way to move in between them is to step out of one apartment, take the elevator or staircase, and enter the other one. One night, we ran out of ice cream upstairs, and my mum told me to go and get some from the downstairs freezer. So I took the keys to the 7th floor's apartment, and since it was dinner time, no one was there. I walked into the pitch dark, and realized that someone was on the sofa. So I flipped the switch, and I see that my dad is just sitting there. It was kind of weird, but I just went to get the ice cream and asked if he had the key to lock up. No answer. I shrugged and thought, well, if he came in and locked the door behind him, he must have a key. I went back upstairs, and my dad was sitting there, eating dinner with the rest of the family. I freaked out and asked how the heck he got there so fast, and everyone told me he had been there the entire time. I told them that that wasn't possible, because I had just seen him downstairs, but no one believed me. I got a good look at the guy, and it was 100% my father. He's kinda fat, and has this serious-looking face, so it's kind of hard to mistake him. There is absolutely no way for anyone to go up or down without first meeting at the elevator or the staircase. Now I never go down there alone. Number 3. Having spent my entire life living in New Mexico, a lot of people I know have claimed to have seen skinwalkers. For those of you who don't know what they are, you'll get the gist from this story. They're kind of our regional boogeyman, but ask a Navajo about them, and they'll either absolutely ignore the question, or they'll kind of laugh it off, saying something to the effect of, white people believe that they're myths. Well, this is my story regarding them. My father owns a small delivery service that operates out of Farmington. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much hassle for the larger delivery companies to bother with. My dad is the only employee, and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day, we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo reservation around 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets the call for the job while he's chilling with his Navajo friend, Travis, and his girlfriend as well. Travis mentions how he's got family out in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages, and makes the suggestion that they should go with him. I was about 6 or 7 at the time, and it was summer, so my dad decides we'll all go down together. He can make his delivery real quick, and then, while Travis sees his family, we can go and check out Window Rock. It's a big rock face with a large hole in it that goes right to the other side. Pretty cool. We had to convoy in separate trucks, since my dad's was loaded down with freight. We decided to bring along a couple of walkie-talkies, so that we could communicate with Travis and his girlfriend as we drove. We spend our time in Window Rock. Everything is generally uneventful, and we start heading home along the old highway, with my dad and I in front, and Travis and his girlfriend in the truck behind us. I honestly don't remember most of Window Rock, but this next part, I can never forget. We're somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had just rained earlier in the day, and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it pretty slow. On the left of the highway there's nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right there's a huge field, separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of the hill, and down at the bottom we see what appears to be a very large dog, sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio. "Hey Trav, do you see that big-ass dog?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio. "That's no dog. Speed up and hit it right now." He just keeps screaming. He sounds almost hysterical. "JJ, you have to hit it. Please, please, hit that fucking thing right now." My dad can hear the fear in his voice, so he starts to speed up, and as we get a bit closer, I begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted fur, that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at us, and it has an almost human face. I don't know how else to describe it. Sort of a mix between a bear and a human face, I suppose. It looks twisted and distorted, and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing, we start to realize it's actually fucking huge. Though it's still sitting on its haunches, it's about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get extremely close to hitting it, when it lets out this scream that sounded like someone screaming as their lungs filled with water, and it rushes backwards towards the field, leaping over the barbed wire fence. Within seconds, it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again. "Holy shit, keep driving. We have to get out of here. We have to drive faster." He kept repeating that last part. Pretty soon, we're speeding like crazy, and just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over as well behind us. Naturally, this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says, "We just saw a Skinwalker a few miles back, and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home, Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing with us. Supposedly, it kept the thing away. If any of you guys have had any experiences with skinwalkers, I'd love to hear them. Number 4. When I was 12, I was in the Scouts. There was a bunch of us on our way home from a camping trip when the tire on our cargo trailer blew and flipped our van into a ravine. I was coherent through the whole scene, and when everything had stopped, I saw one of the other kids, my best friend, crawling out through one of the windows, so I followed him. My uncles were all Scout leaders, and the one who was driving was laying in the mud, about 10 feet away from the van. So I went to him, and he said his leg was broken, and I needed to go up to the road and flag someone down for help. I look around, and I don't see my best friend anywhere, even though I just saw him crawl out of the van. But I do as I'm told, and go to flag down a car by myself. Skip ahead, and I'm at the hospital. The nurse has asked me 3 times to repeat the story, and a doctor shows up to ask me again. My mum shows up halfway through the story, and I asked her why they kept asking me to repeat it. The doctor pulls my mum aside, and I overhear him telling her that of all the people involved in the accident, I was the only person to pull myself from the wreckage, and that everyone else was so badly injured that they were either thrown from the vehicle or the paramedics had to remove them. The fact that I insisted that I had followed my friend out troubled them, and they wanted to check me for trauma to the head. I didn't have any injuries at all, but I found out later that my best friend had died in the accident. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and he was thrown through the windshield. Literally everyone else was accounted for and severely injured, and couldn't have crawled out of that window. Maybe I imagined it, or my subconscious created it as a sort of survival mechanism. Or maybe it really was my best friend, helping me out of trouble one last time. Number 5. I was in 1st grade, just hanging out at recess with a friend. He was shooting some hoops outside, and I was playing on my DS, sitting on the pavement. I remember him asking me if he could make a shot from halfway across the court. I told him he could try, but probably wouldn't make it. I turned my gaze back to my DS. Suddenly, my dad asks me what I mean, and when I look up, I'm sitting on my living room floor carpet, talking with my dad, and it's dark outside. I was sitting in the same position, playing the same game, same level, even the exact same spot in the level. Everything continued normally that night, and I didn't tell anyone at the time. But looking back, it's really freaky. It was as if I had teleported through space and time. The only rational explanation would be that this was a dream, but I know it wasn't. Hi guys, Lazy here, and thank you very much for listening. Well, these ones were a bit more paranormal in nature, weren't they? I've been making more of those mysterious types of videos recently, actually, haven't I? I don't know, I think they're pretty cool. But hey, you let me know what you think and what other types of videos you'd like to see from me, because your suggestions really do help me out. And they help me gauge what direction the channel should be veering in, you know. As always, don't forget to smash that like button or I'll smash you, and I'll have another video for you guys very, very soon. So until then, stay spooky, and remember, the best things happen in the dark. When it lets out a scream that sounds like someone's lungs filling up with water. Sound like Chewbacca.